welcome Hoosier fans to this week's edition of Assembly Call Radio, where each week we discuss the most important topics in the world of Indiana basketball. This is our 232nd edition of Assembly Call Radio, and it is our 737th episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of October 21st, 2021. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni. And let's begin this edition of the Assembly Call how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment.
And Indiana is the national champion.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion.
Smart takes the shot.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
This week's banner moment occurred last weekend when Takai Newton, the mother of Indiana recruit Jakai Newton, tweeted out thanks to the Hoosier Nation. She tweeted, quote, "Thank you, the Indiana basketball coaching staff, for an amazing, professional, and thoughtful weekend. To all the Hoosier fans who supported my guy on Twitter and Instagram and greeted us in the streets, I see why they call y'all the best fans in the nation. Thank you," end quote. This is what we all want, a coaching staff who understands the tradition, who can recruit around the country, and who can win basketball games, a fan base that is united and spirited enough to make an impact on a recruit and their family in just one weekend, a Hoosier Nation so strong that Assembly Hall will undoubtedly once again be the hardest place for visitors to play, a program that wins championships and banners. Thank you, Bettina, for seeing what we believe is the best college basketball program in the country. Let's all do our part to make sure that happens. Okay, let me introduce my esteemed co-hosts for tonight. I have two of them, actually. Ryan's taking a week off. Jared Morris will be here shortly after he gets his family to bed. And here with me right now is Charlton Warren of Girls Sports in Cincinnati, the president emeritus of the Robert Johnson Fan Club, and one of the world's most esteemed bracketologists. And tonight he has new music.
The best of you sports coaching, you know that we got 'em. When it comes to analytic trends, you know he can spot 'em. For first-class bracketology, if you want the top, you gotta go bottoms. If you want the top, you gotta go bottoms. If you want the top, you gotta go bottoms.
Man, if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will. That's excellent. Bob Thompson produced a new song. Andy, what is your bottoms line on the last week in Indiana basketball?
Well, first, appreciate the great Bob Thompson cooking up something new. So new season, new song. So well done, Bob, as always. So, for me this week, a couple other normal tentpole events of the off season. You got Ken Palm rankings out, which is always lets you know the season's getting closer. I've started, as you probably have, Coach, at least thinking through some preseason bracketology stuff. Exchanged a few messages with Alex about the posting schedule for that here in a couple weeks. And so the season is getting close. Unfortunately, you didn't get a chance to have their scrimmage they had planned with Cincinnati over the weekend. But hopefully they can get the one with Belmont. Forget when that was scheduled, but I know it's supposed to be in Louisville. So maybe they'll be able to get that one in. Never a great time to feel like you have injuries at that point, especially as snake bitten as the program has felt in some ways in that regard over the past. But I think, caution the right way to go in the off season, and hopefully they can get everybody healed up and ready to go for the start of the season. So just it'll be here before we know it, surprisingly enough.
Real close. And joining us is mediocre Jay. Jay Horry joins us today. He's the one who will be running the second segment with our over and under segments. He's the one who sets those lines. Jay, your thoughts on Indiana basketball, and then specifically talk a little bit about Jakai Newton announcing tomorrow. You put something out in the community. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Coach. Happy to be here in another edition of Jay's Mediocre Casino later tonight. Really excited about Jakai Newton. The recruitment's kind of taken off over the summer. He went from a relatively unknown to somebody who really burst on the scene at a couple local events down in Georgia, and then kind of played his way into that conversation of a top 50-ish sort of recruit. He's had a relationship with Coach Yasir Rosemond for a few years, and so I think that really helped you jump in there quickly. So very excited about that tomorrow. I think IU's going to get some good news, and as long as we don't jinx it here tonight. So.
Yeah, it was on the banner moment, and then we talk about it. It doesn't happen until it happens, but it does look good there. Okay, here's what we're going to cover this week. We're going to talk in segment 1 some Hoosier headlines. We've already kind of hinted upon the big recruiting news. Segment 2, we're going to talk about the preseason over and unders for your Indiana Hoosiers for this upcoming season. And then, of course, we'll answer your questions. We have some really good ones in segment 3. All of that coming up this week on Assembly Call Radio. Don't forget to join our private IU basketball discussion community at assemblycall.com/community. We have a lot of good things going on in the community. As we announced last week, Tony Adranya's IU Film Room is now a premium part of our community. We'll be raising the price, or have raised the price for access now before the season starts. So get in there and join the IU Film Room. Tony does a really good job. And so also in the community is a new Grace Burger show, was kind of hinted out by Jared. We'll have more information on that, bringing a show to the community. And then the Coach's Corner, the little segments that I put together, we're going to do a little spin this year. We're still going to do some basketball 101 or some short film breakdowns. We'll leave the major ones to Tony. But we're also going to do a poll, a top 25 poll, and a Big Ten power ranking poll brought to you by Coach Adranya, Coach Marlowe, and myself. Will be the voting panel, and look for every Monday or Tuesday to see what the three of us have as far as college basketball overall. And we may do a show or two, bi-weekly, just to talk some general college basketball. So make sure that you are a part of the community. Go to assemblycall.com/community to see what we're talking about and to join. We'd love to have you there. For the Hoosier headlines, we had a new inside scoop with Tamar Bates. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, it's just fantastic. It had Tamar's brother on and just really some good things. We talked about Jakai Newton announcing his school on Friday. He just visited IU, and all signs are pointing that it's going to be an IU commit. And again, not until we hear it for sure, but he's gone from off the radar to a top 100 recruit after a strong summer, 6'3" with a 6'10" wingspan. Gotta love that wingspan. Noah Clowney decision is coming up on November 1st. He did have that for October 31st, pushed that back a day. Indiana's ranked 31st in the KenPom initial rankings, 42nd in offensive efficiency, 23rd in defensive efficiency. And KenPom predicts a 20-11 record, 10-10 in the Big Ten. And there's some statistical play in his numbers early. It doesn't really take full effect until late December, early January with this season's information. On a tough note, Dick Vitale is to undergo chemo for cancer. He's still going to try to call games, but we wish him nothing but the best. And I know that some people really appreciate and love Dick Vitale. Some people may not find him fun to listen to, but he is an ambassador for the game of basketball and has done quite a bit to elevate the NCAA game. And so we wish nothing but the best for his health. And then 5 Big Ten teams were in the preseason top 25 AP poll: Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, Ohio State, and Maryland. Michigan State, Indiana, Rutgers were receiving votes. So, Andy, there's quite a bit of Hoosier headlines. What draws your attention? What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, the KenPom stuff is, while it's interesting, as you hear him, talk about different things, there's a lot of continuity-based stuff there, but there's really nothing in it to account for a guy who's never coached at the college level before. So it becomes pretty difficult to really, there is the carryover, as you said, that is usually in there till midway through the season. So I think you normally would take those with a grain of salt. It's exciting to see, but I think this year more than ever, there's no way to bake in what the defensive scheme is going to be, the offensive scheme is going to be. So I guess positive that at least the personnel suggests to him that that's where they could finish. But that's until we really see the team play, going to be a little bit harder than most years to really read a ton into that. And then the poll, I think that pretty much shakes out with how the majority of postseason projections have gone for the league, where you've got those clear-cut top 4 in Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, Ohio State, and then you kind of got Maryland, Michigan State, IU, Rutgers in kind of the same area. So that lines up pretty well with that. And then, you mentioned the Dick Vitale thing. I think probably some people have soured on him over the course of time, just as he's, gotten older and everybody's gotten more used to, I guess, how he calls games. But certainly from my perspective, during my formative college basketball years, if you will, he was a fixture in that, and a guy who has done so much to raise money to fight cancer that he gets to fight it himself now, and certainly wish him nothing but the best. Whatever you think about him, however you feel about him now versus how you felt about him in years past when he was first coming up, everything that you hear is just what a great guy he is and how much he loves college basketball, and that comes through without a doubt. So hopefully he can beat it, and got lots of people rooting for him. That's for sure.
I enjoy the Ken Palm ratings quite a bit. And what we do, Andy, with our bracketology, the net ranking will come out, and we try to talk a lot early in the season, but really none of the stuff that we do really takes place until maybe even February. Does it really hold much water? Don't tell your readers on Assembly Call and anyone who follows Delphi Bracketology, because we're going to be putting out content right away in November. But it does for me, the 31 ranking is just nice, saying that there is that possibility to be in the top 40. If you're in the top 40 in Ken Palm at the end of the season, you're likely to be in the tournament. So I think that that is an interesting spot for Indiana. And as far as the rankings go, I will give a little preview. I know it's only a 3-coach panel, but there is one coach that had Indiana in the top 25, and he happens to be speaking. But we still have one more coach to turn in his ballot. It's just good. There's just a good vibe with all that. We want the rating to be higher. We want the AP ranking to be higher. And once the games start, I think Indiana will move up in there. At least we hope so. Jay, what headlines? We already talked about Jakai Newton. If you want to talk a little bit more about him, or what else sticks out for you on our list of Hoosier headlines?
Yeah, I'll go back to Newton a little bit, just because I tend to focus a little more on recruiting than I know you do, Coach. I know you're one of those guys who says until they get on campus, I don't care about them. So
that's right.
But Newton's an exciting prospect. He's an explosive athlete for being only 6'3". His athleticism and his length really pop off the screen when you're watching him. I mean, he gets to the basket, he attacks, he finishes with both hands, he finishes above the rim. He's kind of one of those smaller guards that still has the athleticism that IU just really hasn't had. I was trying to think of a player comparison just for Ryan's sake, because I know just in absentia, I wanted to give him a player comparison, but it's really hard to do because he's just a very explosive athlete for his size. But it shows kind of the work that IU's put in the South, especially. I mean, you look at the commits that IU has. That Tamar Bates already on campus, Jalen Hood-Schifino coming next year, Caleb Banks. I mean, a lot of guys from the South, and that's a lot of work that Coach Rosemond and Kenya Hunter have put in down there. And apparently it just took Tom Crean getting the head coaching job in Georgia for us to be able to recruit that state. So really excited about the possible addition of Jakai Newton. And just for the people, if we have any chat mob that are in Atlanta, be looking for IU to play a game down there, possibly next year. I think IU's been working hard to cement their position down in that area. There's a ton of IU alumni in Atlanta, and I think I would not be shocked if IU played against an SEC team in Atlanta next year.
Always good to be seen in areas that you want to be noticed in, being the recruit. Did you guys get a chance to watch the Tamar Bates interview? What were your thoughts on that? Jay, I see you smiling. What stood out, besides Jared just does a really good job of leading them into discussions. So what stood out for you in episode 2 of the Inside Scoop?
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I don't know who came up with the idea. I don't know if it was Jared's brainchild, but it's Tamar's a fantastic interview. You can tell that both he and his brother Trey have been raised incredibly well. their interactions are incredible. I mean, just Trey kind of, little pushing and nodding his little brother about their times on the basketball court together. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, it's definitely worth your time. I can't help but wish Trey all the best. He's playing in JUCO this year. And he freely admitted that, he wasn't always the best student, and he's working hard to get that part of his life together so he can hopefully play at D1 next year. Nothing but the best to that family. They seem like all amazing people.
Yeah, I can't wait till the dad gets on to a chance to defend himself, because he caught some shrapnel toward the end of that one about their games in the driveway. But yeah, just seems like a really fun family, and kind of basketball crazy, which I think everybody in Bloomington will respect for sure as you go through that part of it. But yeah, it's just interesting to, the whole one of the ideas of it was just to be able to kind of get to know some of these guys a little bit more as people than what we get to see and what we get access to under normal circumstances. And I think being able to see the interaction between him and his brother, talking about playing together in high school, and even how Trey said even though he was quite a bit younger, that Scoop really took on a leadership role in the team, which I thought was interesting coming into this year, where I think you can see him. I think that's something he's going to want to try to do. Obviously, more difficult at the college level to do some of that, but a guy who I think gets respect from other guys, even older, and things like that. So I think that'll be interesting to kind of see what kind of leader he becomes, even as a freshman on the IU team this year, based on what we heard.
He just has that infectious personality. Like, I just couldn't help but lean back here in my chair and laugh and smile at some of the responses. And when you have that, hopefully that plays out in the team dynamic, that, that's a guy that can lead by example, lead by his talk. And there were just so many good points in that interview. The time when Jared asked him about their greatest achievement or whatever, and they turned it right to a tough moment, speaks volumes for what I think Tamar is as a competitor, that he's going to constantly want to get better. And they talked about missing some free throws and then coming back in the gym and working hard on their own. And then just the fact that they were talking about how they appreciated their dad trying to coach him up in the driveway and in the youth leagues and all the fundamentals, and then how they dropped him, once they got to the level where they were good, and they dropped him. So it's must watch the next show or the next two shows, whenever we can get Dad Bates on the show to kind of defend himself. It is must see inside scoop television. So we've talked quite a bit about all of these headlines. Noah Clowney, the one thing I think he has not taken his Alabama visit. That had to be rescheduled, and I think he is going to before November 1st. I'm not positive on that. Any news on that, Jay, whether he's going to fulfill that, or have you heard anything in the Noah Clowney recruitment?
That's an interesting one. It's been really quiet. I think there was some IU momentum there for a little while, but there's also the IU scholarship issue that, I know those things tend to work themselves out, but I know IU's overbooked for next year, so we'll see what happens with that. I know IU's still very much after Noah and would really like him to join the recruiting class. But his whole recruitment's been very close to the vest, and just hopefully once we get closer to his announcement, we'll get a little more information. But right now, it's I think it's all up in the air.
Andy, have you heard anything about Clowney?
No, I'm more on your page on the recruiting front, Coach. I think just because I don't probably have enough time to follow that as well. So I'll yield to Jay on that one for sure.
What are you trying to say there, Andy? Jeez.
I know there was I know there might have been some connection with a coach or AAU coach with Virginia Tech or something like that. So again, that one's, I think, a little bit more up in the air at this time. Okay, coming up on Assembly Call Radio, it's our annual preseason over and under segment. Jay has come up with some really good and fun over and unders for us to sink our teeth into. We'll do that next here on the Assembly Call. All right, welcome, Chat Mob. It's closer,
Chat
man.
Mob?
Weather's getting a little bit of chill in the air. It's got that basketball feel to it tonight when we were out going out for dinner, and it's going to be close.
It's feeling like basketball season, especially as I try to ignore the football season. So,
oh, man, I tell you what,
this is true. This is true.
This is my only fear with basketball. Like the expectations we had with football, and it's just been a balloon pop with the air just rushing out tremendously. I don't want that to happen in 2 straight seasons.
Yeah, that's the problem with expectations, Coach.
I know. Andy, how you been?
Oh, good. Busy, but we're in the midst of transitioning from soccer to basketball. We got another tournament over the weekend, and then we transition to basketball. Oh, and Jay, she's not playing in that tournament in Indy anymore. So I was
going to ask you. I was getting ready to, because I knew it was coming up, and I was going to text you about that.
Yeah, they apparently overbooked the tournament, and I don't know how they decided who wasn't going, but we're not going, which works out just as well, because then I realized that I have to coach basketball games that weekend too. So actually staying local, so I should be able to do both instead of having to drive back and forth. So unfortunately, won't be able to do that, which would have been fun. But
yeah, it'd been nice to see you guys up here.
Works out better in the long run.
Yep.
I assume we'll be there sometime in the spring, if I had to guess.
We'll be here.
So what about you guys? When do you guys start actual practices for the year? That coming up, I assume?
Yeah, November 8th is the first official day. So we start 2 weeks of conditioning. We've been in the gym 2 times a week for workouts, open gym type stuff in the morning, all summer or all fall. So yeah, it's just around the corner. Looking forward to it.
You guys lost a decent amount last year, correct?
Yeah, we lost 3 starters, 2 4-year starters. Our all-time scorer at Western graduated and moved on, but we have some ability back. We have a young man who is hopefully to average about 20 per game. He's an inside-outside guy, pretty talented. We got 2 Division I pitchers. That one's headed to Purdue and one's headed to Louisville, and they're 6'4", 6'7", brothers. One's a senior, one's a junior. So we got a little size and we have some ability. If our point guards, if we can have a little good point guard play, we'll be all right. So
that Louisville program produces some really good players.
Yeah,
they produce like a top 5 draft pick, it seems like, every year.
It'll be interesting to see. Baseball's so crazy. Wish nothing but the best for these kids, but it's so hard because they over recruit and they only have partial scholarships and all of that, and there's a lot of transfers now, the transfer market and all that. But this kid, I saw him pitch a couple times this year, and man, it just looks like it's the same plane. When you're 6'7" and left-hander, if he can get some, miles per hour, but it's just same plane. Every pitch is the same plane that drops and fastball. So I think the junior, 6'7" junior, he might be.
He might get drafted before he gets to Louisville.
that I don't know. He went out to California this fall, played for Team USA something. So he's pretty good. All I know is all the small school basketball that I've coached, I've never had a guy that can just like drop step and 2-hand slam, off a post move. I just haven't had those guys. So, and now that kid can do it, like we actually can draw up some plays that go above the rim. Usually it's like, hey guys, can you touch the net and can you just block out and dive on the floor? That's the kind of guys I coached. We got some guys with some athletic abilities, but they got to play defense, and I'm in charge of the defense, so we'll see that over and under, Jay, by the end of the season.
Well,
hello, Jared.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
What's up, everybody?
What up,
Just
Jared?
in time for segment 2.
Thanks for jumping in, Jay.
Hey, happy to help.
Always appreciate you being here.
That makes one of you.
All right. Anything we need to know, Jared, before we bounce into our over and unders?
Hey, did you get the audio file for the new Andy Bottoms theme music? Did that debut?
I sure did. And we played
It
it.
was unveiled. It was unveiled.
Pretty awesome, huh?
And a lot of love for Bob Thompson in the chat mob.
He's
so
awesome. By the way, that
he is
came
great.
totally out of the blue. That was all him. He just like emailed me one day and he's like, like I like, Andy's the first music, but just doesn't feel right. So I'm going to do another song. I was like, all right. Then he sent that over and it was perfect.
Man, that reminds me, I need to get with Bob to see if he can make a little theme song for the bracketology podcast that we're planning for our kids coming up.
Nice.
He could probably work in some children's show theme songs.
Yeah,
and then
some
just really
theme songs of Archie Miller.
Auto-tune Archie's children's show rant.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think the new Andy jingle's coming for Adele at number 1. I think
it was solid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it was
Bob
solid.
Thompson's awesome. Ooh, there you go, Coach.
There I go.
Right there.
All right, I'll have to get your email if I don't have
Hit me up,
your email address. I'll hit you up, and I appreciate it. So, all right, we ready to roll?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Hi, this is James Blackman Jr. I never miss an open three, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call. Join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
Welcome back to the Assembly Call. How do you keep up with the fire hose of information that comes out almost every day about IU basketball? It's crazy during the off season, and just in a couple weeks, it's going to get crazy during the season. Well, we've got your back. We send out a free weekly email newsletter on Sunday mornings. It rounds up the most important and interesting IU basketball stories from the previous week to keep you up to date on your Hoosiers. Over 8,000 of your fellow IU fans are on the list, and we want you to be on there too. So go to join.assemblycall.com to subscribe for free right now. That's join.assemblycall.com. You can also text IU to 66866. That's IU to 66866. Okay, I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni. We have a full house here. We have Jared and Andy and Jay, and we're about ready to get this season going with the little over and unders that Jay has come up with. He set the line. He's the bookie. Well, I mean, not the bookie, but he's the house. And we're going to turn it over to him, and then we're going to give our over-unders. It'll be recorded on the show, and it'll be documented, and then we'll check at the end of the season to see who was the better predictor of IU stats. Jay, take it over.
All right. Thanks, Coach. I think this is either the second or third year we've done this. The issue has been IU end of seasons have gone so poorly over the last few years that I've stopped keeping track. And so, and then I just forget about it. And then Jared emails me 8 months later and it's like, hey, what happened last year? And I'm like, I have no idea. So this year,
we don't want to relive it anyway. We haven't had a season worth reliving in half
a year and 8 months later. It doesn't matter.
So this year, I promise that the season's going to go better. And also that we will have a season recap of these over-unders to see who takes the championship belt. Maybe we'll have to get a championship belt that we can pass around. I'm sure Ryan will submit his picks about 5 games into the season, and then he'll claim that he won. So, chat mob, as I read these out, feel free to drop your answers in the chat. We'll take an informal poll, and then we'll record the chat mob's answer, and then we'll measure them against our panel here. The first one on the books has been posted in the Assembly Call community. I'm making a spur of the moment decision. I'm making a spur of the moment decision. The over-under for Trace Jackson Davis double-doubles is now 13.5. There was way too much action on the over at 12.5. The book has bumped it up to 13.5. Trace had 10 double-doubles last year and obviously fewer games last year than there are on the schedule this year. So over-under 13.5, Trace Jackson Davis double-doubles. Let's go to our fearless leader, Jared Morris.
I'm going to hit the under on that, and it's a hopeful under because, look, we know he's going to score the points. So this is really just a matter of how many times do we think he's going to hit double digits in rebounds. My hope is that Michael Durr can play enough minutes and play in enough games that Trace doesn't have to get that many rebounds because last year we didn't have Joey Brunk. So I'm kind of hopeful that with Race, with Michael Durr, it's going to relieve some pressure on Trace. He's going to get the points, but I just don't think he's going to hit the rebounds as much. But I actually think it's a good thing.
Coach.
I'm going to go over, but I'm going to agree with Jared. It's all going to come down to rebounding. And if I'm wrong, it's because he doesn't get those rebounds. And that could be a good thing, too, because of other people rebounding or just sometimes the ball goes somewhere else. And I told you, Jay, when we were talking about this, that sometimes you might just get 8 to 9 and have a great night and miss that double. But in 31 games, is this also 31 games or any tournament games? We haven't talked about that. I'll just say in 31 games, I think he's just poised to have a really good year, even though there's more talent and more ability to share some of the points and some of the things with this team. I think Trace is that dominant, All-American type year. I think he's going to have at least 14 double-doubles.
Hey, Coach, if we make the tournament and it skews the over-unders, I'm fine with that. It's good. Let's enjoy that problem.
We'll say that the regular season and Big Ten tournament count for these.
Okay, so one game in the Big Ten tournament. Okay.
I mean, we were all thinking it, but yeah. I'll take the over as well. I mean, I don't disagree with what Jared said necessarily, but I think in a league where you're going to need him to play as many minutes as you can, given the quality of other big men, I think you're going to need him out there a decent amount. So I'll use last year if he had 10 and a more limited set of games, and it feels plausible to do better than that.
All right, and from what I saw, the chat mob went under, so I'm giving the chat mob under on that. All right, question 2: Xavier Johnson over under 4.5 assists per game. Last year, Rob led the team with 2.9 a game, but Xavier, when he was at Pitt, averaged between 4.5 and 5.7 assists per game. So that's what we're working with there. Let's swing it to Coach.
Oh, this is tough. I really want it to be over, because if it's over, we're going dancing and we're going to have a really good season. So I'll gladly lose this. I'm going to officially say just a slightly under, because I think Rob's going to get some time at pushing the ball as well. And so I think he's going to be slightly under.
Let's go, Andy.
Yeah, I'm going to need to fight the urge to be overly optimistic here, because after watching the football season, everybody just feels like they need a win of some kind. I'm watching the Eagles do whatever it is that they're doing. Reds completely collapsed, so I'm gonna go over again. Why not? I think part of this is pace related in my view. I mean, IU, if they want to get up and down, there's going to be more possessions, more opportunities for that. Now, the flip side is you need somebody on the end of these passes actually making shots, which has been one of the issues in converting assists in recent years. So it's also a little bit of a bet on the supporting cast, but I'll take the over, because I think he's going to have the ball in his hands the majority of the time in a fast-paced offense. We hope to be a fast-paced offense. So I'll take the over.
All right, we got 1 over, 1 under. Chat mob looks like tied right now at over under, so I need some more people to chime in on that one. And Jared, where do you?
It's tough. I want to go over, but my gut feeling says under.
Jared, why do you hate this team? That's the first question.
No, but I don't. But again, I don't think it's bad, because I think for this team to hit the ceiling, that means Christian Lander's probably playing more minutes, and that probably takes some assists away from Xavier Johnson. So I don't think it's a bad thing if Xavier Johnson, Rob Finney, and Christian Lander, and maybe even a Trey Galloway, kind of split some of the assists to where one guy doesn't dominate it. So, look, I think Xavier Johnson is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. I think he'll lead the team, but I just, the way I kind of see it working, and maybe it's just because we haven't had a high assist guy in a while, so I struggle to visualize it. I just feel like there'll be more of an equal distribution of the assists. So I'm going to go slight under, 4.1, 4.2. It's tough for me to see it another way.
And all right, I think we have an under in the chat mob by maybe 1. That was incredibly close. So chat mob is pessimistic, like Jared. So that's
not about being pessimistic.
Welcome back, Jared.
All right, so this is one of my favorite stats. This is for Race Thompson, and this is stocks per game and stocks are steals plus blocks. Race averaged 2.3 stocks last year. I'm setting the over-under at 2.5 stocks for Race Thompson per game. Let's go to Andy.
I'll take the under on that one, I guess. A little bit hard to gauge without having a great idea of how the team's going to play defensively, how they're going to. I think Race will play a lot, as we've said, just because of what he means to the team from an effort standpoint, leadership. But I don't know. It's close enough. I'll take the under to be at least take the underside of one of these. So I'll go under on that one.
Chat mob coming in hard on the over. All right, Jared, what do you got?
I'm bullish on Race, man. I'm going over. I think this is kind of the underrated thing that he's done really well. I remember I did an article about this last year where, you look at guys that end up, going to the NBA from Indiana, guys like Victor Oladipo, OG Anunoby, Juwan Morgan. They're guys that have high block percentages and steal percentages. And Race Thompson has been one of those guys where his block plus steal percentage has been, last year was his lowest at 7.4. Prior to that, it was above 8 both seasons. And so I see him, getting a lot of minutes. I'm really hopeful his offensive game comes around, but this is the thing that he does really well. And so I'm smashing that over button.
Coach.
I'm going to go over. I just think Race is poised to have a dominant year, and he's going to be dominant on his defensive end, but I also see his offensive game elevating this year, and he's going to be one of the surprise players. I don't think he's maybe going to get over 10 points or anything explode like that, but he's going to win a lot of games on both ends. And so I think that elevates from 2.3 to above 2.5. Race Thompson might be the best defender all the way around, hustle guy that we've seen in a long time, and I think he'll go down as that guy.
This is definitely a pro Race Thompson podcast. I'll give you guys that. All right.
And Ryan's not even here, his biggest fan.
We'll mark Ryan down for under there just to change things up.
Time has proven me right on virtually nothing.
Nice. All right, next one. I like this one. Parker Stewart, number of made threes per game.
I love how Jay subtly gives himself credit. Ooh, I like this one. Boy, whoever made this one really did a good job.
Hey, Coach already told me he liked this one, so this is on Coach. So, he already patted me on the back, so now I'm just, reinforcing that. All right, Parker Stewart, over under made threes per game. I have it at 2 flat, 2.0. Just for comparison, Armand last year led the team and made threes per game at 1.6. The year before that, Devontae Green had 2.03 threes per game coming off the bench. So, all right, let's go to Jared.
Over. I'm bullish on Parker Stewart. I love the way he shoots. This team needs shooting. And this is a guy who's done it in 2 different shooting environments. At Pitt, he was a catch and shoot guy in the ACC. At Tennessee Martin, he was off the dribble, creating his own shot. I'm a little worried just because he hasn't played in a year and it's new teammates and all that stuff, but he's already had one transition, so he's kind of used to that. So I think Parker Stewart's going to be awesome this year, and I think the underrating of Parker Stewart is one of the reasons why people are less optimistic on Indiana than you might otherwise be. So I'm going over. He's the best shooter on the team. He'll get more than 2.
Chat mob agrees. What do you got, Coach?
Man, this is another one where the fan in me says go over, because if it's over, we're winning, right? I mean, we need shooting. That is 64 made threes. I can see if he hits this, I think he's going to have games where he goes 4 or 5 and just goes off, and then he's going to be shut down a game. So the number comes down to just how does it average out. I'm going to go over because I do think that he's hungry to play. He's very motivated for a lot of reasons to play, and I think once he gets his feet set in playing in this league, I think you're going to see enough games where he has multiple threes to be able to hit that average.
What do you got, Andy?
I'll go over. I got to get Xavier Johnson. Got to get those assists somewhere, so I'm right on that one. So I'll do the correlation between that and this one. So I'll go over.
All right, that's an over across the board. All right, next one. Another, staying on the 3-point topic, Miller Kopp, 3-point percentage, over under 38%. Last year, Miller Kopp at Northwestern shot 32%. However, he shot 40% the year before that. Coach, what do you got?
I'm going over because I think he's going to get more open looks. I think at Northwestern last year, he was one of the guys that you took away. And so some of his shots had to be somewhat more contested because of the defense. And then he was the guy where you're going to take late shot clock shots and those types of things. I think he gets more open looks because of Trace Jackson Davis and Xavier. And so the defense is going to have trouble covering everyone. And that's going to leave him open. And if he's open, he's going to be back to the frame to that to the point that he was 40% that second year. So I think he'll easily go over 38%.
Andy.
Wow.
Easily go over.
Easily.
Man, that's
easily. 42. Mark it down.
Ooh.
42. Boy, I tell you.
Coach.
I'm going to
The
go.
dude can shoot.
I'm going to go slightly under on this one. I think he's up above. I think he's a good, few percentage points better than a year ago, but maybe not quite to the other level. I'd say 36, 37 or so. So I'll go slight under on that one.
Jared?
Yeah, I love Miller Kopp, but I'm just kind of play the odds and go under. I think he'll still be a really good shooter. He'll hit a lot of big shots, but the guy's taking 333 shots, playing at a Big Ten school, and he's 35.7%. No shame in that, but he can shoot 37% and still be a huge weapon for Indiana. So if he goes over, that's great, but it just seems like the more unlikely of the scenarios.
And there was another really close one with the chat mob. It looks like I'm going to say Jack's late switch from under to over swung it to the over for
Miller Kopp's a man of the people. He's going to get the over. Come on.
A man who does a vlog is not going to shoot 38%. He's going to go over 40. I'm just telling you.
Wait, Jared, did you take over or under?
Under.
Okay,
under.
That's what I thought. But I just wanted to make sure you were being pessimistic again. I just wanted to confirm.
Yep. That's me. I am Mr. Pessimism. That's what I do here.
I mean, there's been a lot of reviews about the Assembly Call podcast that said you guys are just way too negative. So, all right, next one. We got Tamar Bates over under 10 points per game, and I think we are to Andy.
I'm going to say over. I just find it hard not to be bullish on him and the fact that he can score in different ways. I think he's going to be hard to take off the floor. Now, the challenge might be, is he a starter at the beginning of the season? And, in terms of like averaging that over the course of the year might be tricky because he may be a, 6-man coming off the bench early on. But I'll stick with my general optimism and say over on that one.
Jared, what do you got?
I'm hitting the over. I tend to think the trajectory of his season will be like what Jaden Ivey did at Purdue last year, and I think he's better than Jaden Ivey for the record, but comes in, Jaden Ivey, his first 8 games, he had 12 points, 4 points, 4 points, 0, 11, 8, 0, 6. And then his last 7 games, 26, 19, 17, 18, 14, 15, 11. He really came on. But the thing is, he came on without being able to shoot. And Tamar already projects as a better shooter. Now, projecting freshmen as shooters, sometimes really good shooters struggle as freshmen. And I do think Tamar will struggle as a shooter, but I think he'll be better than Jaden Ivey. And so if Jaden Ivey did that, I think Tamar will do it. But I think he's going to have to catch up over the second half of the Big Ten season. But I think he's one of our 5 best players. And so I think he'll be playing a lot more minutes by then anyway. So I'm going over.
All right, Coach.
A lot of cupcakes early in the schedule too. So that might help him get a little more run earlier in the year, even though he may not be starting at that point.
True.
I'm going to go under, and that's not any negative of Tamar. Somebody's got to score less than 10 points, and think there's some other places where the points are going to accumulate. And for the reason of I think that he's going to have difficulty catching up. I also agree by the end of the year, he'll be averaging 12 or 13 in those last 5 or 6 games. I think I see that progression in him. But without, a definitive starting spot yet, and freshman, I think there will be some big games for him where he wins games for Indiana with his clutch shooting. And so, again, if this is one I would be gladly wrong on, but I think he's going to be in the 8 or 9 points as a freshman and then go from there.
If only we had an interview with somebody close to Tamar that talked about Tamar being able to, somebody setting a down screen for him and popping out and hitting threes, and not letting Tamar get too hot. I mean, if anybody did that interview, I'd love to hear it.
If only. I gotta ask Tamar what his thoughts on the over-under are.
There we go.
The dude will say over. That interview was so good. I was ready to go play a game after watching that interview. I mean, he had me so fired up, just the way he loved to compete and get better.
Man, that dude has an infectious personality.
You asked him. Yeah. You asked him about one of his greatest successes, and he talks about one of his struggles, which ended up in a 3-hour free throw shooting marathon back in the gym. I mean, that tells you right there how wrong I'm going to be on this under 10 points.
And I can't believe you're going under here.
That was wild. I mean, if you haven't listened to that interview, please just pause this, go do that. Actually, don't do that. Listen to this rest of this, then go do that. All right, next one. Rob. Oh, sorry, the chat mob went over. They were hard over on Tamar. All right, Rob Fantasy. Over under. We assume Rob's going to be the sixth man for the majority of this season. Over under 21.5 minutes per game. And this is just for comparison's sake. Trey Galloway had the sixth highest minute total last season, and he played 19.7 minutes per game. So Rob Fantasy, over under 21.5. I think we're back to Jared.
Over. His defense is going to get him on the floor. I think he's going to be able to play off the ball more, where he's been more successful offensively. But also the fact that he is kind of your second point guard, when Xavier Johnson gets in foul trouble or has a rough night where his emotions maybe are running a little bit high and Rob has to play more. I just think there's a lot of avenues for Rob to get minutes. And I don't think 21.5 is that high of a bar to clear. So I think he hits the over.
Coach?
I'm going to go over. If it doesn't hit, it's a good thing because, Christian Lander, it may be taking some of those minutes and it drops down to 19 or 20, and some other people can step up and play defense. But I really think Rob's style is going to be catchy on the defensive end, and I think he's going to have as good a year as we need him to be. I don't think he needs to be great, but he's going to be a good addition. I think he's going to be over those 21.5.
I got to get that drop, Coach. Thanks for reminding me. I haven't gotten that yet.
He needs to put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah, this was tough. I keep trying to put these in the context of what I answered for the others and see how could some of these things be all happen at the same time.
You're going to tie yourself in knots if you do that. Better just go with your gut.
My gut on this one was over. I started thinking about the other way because of the taking the over on the assists for Xavier and the threes for Parker Stewart and stuff like that. But I think defensively is where he probably gets some extra minutes late in games when they really need guys to lock down. And I think he's going to play enough just based on all the positive buzz he's gotten in the offseason from Woodson and other players around him. So I'll take the over.
Andy can't help but think of things like a bracketologist. It's like if you put one person here, then how's that going to affect over here?
Yeah. I mean, we're all trying to win, so
I think the chat mob is a very slight over. I'm going to give it that way just because Joel changed his mind, and if Joel changes his mind on something, I mean, you got to go with that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, next one. This is one of my favorite ones. Jordan Geronimo, total dunks. Over or under 15.5. He had 6 last year. Thank you to Bart Torvik for tracking shots now. So now on his site, we can see how many dunks people have. And so Jordan had 6 last year. Over under this year is 15.5. Let's go to Coach.
Over. The dude's a freak athlete. He's going to get 4 or 5 tip dunks just from all-out hustle on rebounds. He's going to get out on the break. And the guards are going to hit him, and he's going to come in. And as much as we like shooters, there's guys that have been known to go and dunk the basketball. It's a good thing Jared's not here because he'll bring up a certain game and a certain dunk from Marco Killingsworth, right, in that game. Isn't that what he refers to?
I mean, Jared's still here.
Ryan. I was looking at Jared and thinking Ryan.
Dude.
Yeah. I'm getting old. And, I think – he's going to be that guy that gets people going with his hustle defensively and rebounding. And I think easily over.
For Kathy Amos in the chat, who apparently can't pay attention, it's the over-under is 15.5 on Jordan Geronimo dunks.
Come on, Kathy.
Come on, Kathy.
And we are to Andy.
Oh boy. I'll take the under, I guess. I have no idea what a good what a good average number of dunks in a season would be for somebody. So I'll take the under, I guess.
I appreciate that contribution, Andy. Jared.
Yeah, I kind of want to take the under, almost as, just kind of keeping with the fact that I'm, hopeful that Michael Durr plays a lot and that maybe that limits actually some of the opportunities that Jordan Geronimo has. But I also think, he only played 15% of minutes last year and had 6 dunks. And I think he's going to play 45% of minutes. He's going to get time. And we're going to be playing more up tempo. And I think this team got no transition opportunities. Almost all of his dunks were just on broken defense against Iowa, basically. I'm pretty sure 3 or 4 of them came against Iowa, which everybody gets dunks against Iowa. So I think he'll have more opportunities. So anyway, all that to say, I'm going over, but I'm a little hesitant about it. But I'm going over, and I'm still really excited about what Jordan can do this year.
And Coach, you were over as well, right?
Yes, over.
And the chat mob was a strong over too. So only Andy's being the negative guy.
I'm just here for the fundamentals. We don't need
Dunks.
Yeah, we don't need to show off.
Andy asked for over under on number of perfectly set screens, but I didn't know how to track that. So
ooh. We also haven't seen one in 5 years.
All right, so now we're into some Ken Palm stuff. All right, so this is an interesting one. Over under Ken Palm offensive efficiency ranking. The over under is at 30.5. So under means that IU finishes with a top 30 offense. So it means they finish in the top 30 of offensive efficiency. That's what under means. Over means it's worse than that. IU was 70th last year. They're starting the Ken Palm projection in 42nd this year. Let's go to Andy first.
Oh boy.
Jeez, have you looked at the offensive efficiencies the last 4 years? I'm sure we all remember.
Spoilers.
My God,
it's
it's
not been
heinous.
It's been bad.
Yeah. It's actually worse than I thought. I thought we had at least one decent season under Archie.
I swore I would not look back at those statistics. So I refuse.
Yeah. Reminder, under's good, over's bad.
I'm going to take the over slightly. I think it's a reasonably good number to set, but I just think is that, first year with him, they'd already talked about, offense isn't one of the things they put in. Now you can make up for a little bit of that by playing good defense and getting yourself some easy baskets. But I guess I'll kind of play the percentages and take the over on that until we get a better idea what's going on and hope to be proven wrong.
Jared?
Jeez, man. I was ready to take the over, but we can still
it's only
improve.
A top 30 offense. What do you got? Come on.
Yeah, but top 30 offense, given where we've been, that seems monumental. So I'm actually going to go. I'm going slightly under. I think we'll be top 40, but I just.
Well, hang on.
I want to
the other way.
Be realistic.
Yeah, other way around. That means if you're going top 40, that's over. Top 30 is under.
Fine. Yes, I don't think that our offense will be as good as 31. I think we'll have a worse offense, not by a lot. But I'm trying to be reasonable and I hope I'm wrong on that. But it's just, again, it's been so long since I've seen an offense that's that good. I guess I just struggle to see what it looks like before the season starts.
All right, Jared and Andy are both overs, meaning that IU will not have a top 30 offense. What do you got, Coach?
Under. I think the NBA kind of stuff that Coach Woodson's going to bring in is enough to get us under. I don't know, for the very things that both of you said about not knowing the offense yet. I think it's going to hover 25 to 30, and I'm really taking a risk because I think that's just a lot to ask. But I think we are going to see this team play downhill more, and I think, it's going to be enjoyable, and I think we are going to move up from 42nd, and I do think we'll be top 30 offense. I think it's going to be a surprise, and I'm excited to see this offense.
All right. The chat mob is not as excited because they are all going over. Again, feeding off Jared's pessimism, which I get. All right. Next question is the same, but for the defense. So over under 30.5 KenPom defensive efficiency. Jared.
Under. Our defense will be better. We will have a top 25 defense. The rocks of this team, the seniors, Rob Finney and Race Thompson, it's what they do the best. Trace has improved as a defender. I think we've got some good defensive pieces, and it's Mike Woodson's focus right now. And I just think with the energy and kind of the effort that I think these guys will play with kind of under a new coach, having, the Assembly Hall crowd back, I think we'll be rock solid defensively. I don't think we'll get, super high, but I definitely think we'll have a top 25 defense.
And just for some notes, IU's defense finished 43rd last year. They are currently projected at 23rd in KenPom. So, Coach, what do you got?
Under. This team's going to guard. And despite Joel saying that I think we're going to go to the Final Four, I think this team's going to be really good. I don't think that they'll be a Final Four team, but this team's going to guard, and they're going to play some good offense, and it's going to be a top 25 team by the end of the year.
Andy?
Yeah, I'll go under on that one. We don't need to get into any more reasons why than what everybody else had. I just think that's such a big focus for Woodson. That's what he's harped on every media availability about, really wanting to stand for that. So I think if there's one of these they get, that's the one. And
the chat mob, I think, was damn near unanimous over there. They were all on the underside too. All right, this is one that the last 4 years has really hurt my soul. It's KenPom adjusted tempo. We were 289th in tempo last year for how fast IU's possessions went. For all the promises about we were going to play an up-tempo game that never materialized. So IU is 289th last year. We're projected right now at 216th. I'm setting the over-under at 150th. Basically, can we be one of the fastest 150 teams in college basketball this year? Under means we're faster. Let's go to Coach.
Man, I think we're going to play faster. I just don't have any idea if we're going to be able to move up to 150. That's the top half. What the heck? Go under.
That's the spirit. What do we got, Andy?
150 or better. Let's play fast. Let's score the basketball. Let's have some fun on offense.
I'll say under on that. I think most things that we've heard suggest they want to get out and try to run. I think the defense helps with that a little bit if they can create some turnovers and do things that way. So I think the desire is to be able to hit it, whereas that certainly has not been the desire in the last few years, and the results in terms of tempo bear that out.
I mean, it sounded like the desire was to play fast the last 4 years, but I'm not sure that ever materialized. Jared, what do you got?
The constantly waving arm would suggest that was the goal, and yet it didn't happen. So I think it all sounds good in the preseason. I also think old habits die hard, and I also think the offense is still predicated around getting the ball inside to Trace Jackson Davis, which just takes time to materialize. So I think we'll play faster. I think we'll get out and transition more, all that stuff. And maybe this is just like, I don't know. It's more of just a qualitative judgment. I don't know if we'll be top 150 because I don't know what everybody else is going to do. But just as a general thought, I think we'll be faster, but not maybe as fast as everybody thinks or hopes. Because, like Rob, I think Rob's going to be better, but Rob just isn't a fast-playing player. Will he be more like that in the new system? Again, we've seen one thing for 3 years. Hopefully we see something new. But I don't think we're going to be as much faster as everybody thinks. So I'll take the over for that, or the under, whatever it is.
Jared has a lot of PTSD about IU's offense the last 4 years, which I completely understand because we all were there. We watched it. It all sucked. So, all right. Number of players. Oh, sorry. The chat Bob was under with Coach and Andy. All right. Number of players to start a game. So last year, 7 different players started a game for IU. The year before, 8 different players started a game. Let's go the over-under at 7.5. Number of players to start a game. I have no idea where we are in this thing, but let's go to Coach.
I think this is going to be interesting because injuries will play a big part in that. Obviously, you have a couple guys that are on the bench, and that in the Bahamas in Tamar and Rob that easily could find their way into the starting lineup just for performance. For that reason, I think there's definitely 7. I'm going to go over just to account for a bum ankle or something here or there, and a Geronimo has to step in or someone has to step in at some point. So I'm going to go over 7.5 players to start a game.
Andy, what do you got?
I'll take the under. I think I looked over the roster that felt like 7. I think Geronimo's the swing player in that, at least based on the way that I looked at it. But I think you can mix and match a little bit potentially, even if you do have some injuries and that. So I'll take under.
Chat Mob's going hard over. What do you got, Jared?
Yeah, I'm going over. Again, I think a guy like Tamar will end up starting. And I think, unfortunately, you have to just kind of factor in there'll probably be an injury at some point. For God's sakes, this team isn't even healthy enough to hold a scrimmage early in the season. So let's hope they got it all out of their system already. So I'm very hopeful about that. But I think it's a testament to, it's a deeper roster. So, you can legitimately see more guys potentially starting. But I just think it's more likely. So I'm going over.
Fair enough. Now, I have like 3 or 4 more. Do we want to keep going or you want to take a break?
Yeah, let's just roll through them real quick, and then
all right.
Then we'll get up to segment 3.
All right. Now we have the number of non-conference losses. I've set the over/under at 1.5. I know we've had a lot of talk about what the schedule looks like. Maybe there's only one road game, there's one neutral site game, bunch of home games. Over/under 1.5 on non-conference losses. Andy, what do you got?
I'll take the under. I think they lose 1. I think there's been some show in the offseason where we've talked about this, and I think I don't remember whether it was the Syracuse one or I think Notre Dame's projected to be a bit better. Ken Pom really likes Notre Dame this year, which seems a little bit odd given how they've been the last few. But yeah, I'll say under. I think they lose 1.
Jared?
Yeah, I'll go under 2. I'll say 1.
Coach?
I'm going under 2. Syracuse game is going to be really tough at Syracuse in the first game against that zone.
I should have just set it at a half and then made you guys choose who was going to win that Syracuse game. But
I feel like you'd have been the same way if you said it at half. I bet everybody would have said over. So
yeah. Now 1.5 is a good number because I am a little worried about just stubbing our toe. Sure. There's a learning curve for Coach Woodson and this new staff and everything. So I'm not going to be shocked if they drop one that you shouldn't, where it's just kind of one of those nights.
Wait, hold on. Let me check the schedule for Indiana State. Make sure Indiana State's not on the schedule. All right, we're good. All right.
Fortunately, it's 297th Eastern Michigan.
We are not okay. Yeah, Indiana State is not going to make 18 threes against us in the first game of the Mike Woodson era. We're okay. We're better. We're good there. All right. All right. Here's number of Big Ten wins. Over under 11.5. I tried to make this one a little more difficult for you guys. Ken Pom projects us at 10 Big Ten wins. I think Bark Torvik projected us at 11 Big Ten wins. Over under 11.5. What do you got, Jared?
Over. We'll win 12. I think this team's going to round into shape. I think we'll lose a few early that maybe we're frustrated by, but I think this team's going to hit its stride and play well, down the stretch with the schedule that they have. So
Coach.
I'm going over. I think I just think this team has enough to get to 12 or 13 Big Ten wins, and I just think it's this time. Maybe I'm wishful thinking, but they're talented enough to get 12 and 8. I think is a fair mark.
Andy, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it?
Yeah, I feel like I tried to look through this before. The fact that they have so many games against the teams projected lower in the Big Ten makes me feel better about going slightly over. So I'll say 12 and be optimistic. I think it probably ends up being 11 or 12. Well done setting the over under, because I think 10.5 would have been too easy for everybody to go over. But I'll be optimistic. If they finish 5th or 6th in the Big Ten, I think you could do that even being 12 and 8, given how everybody's going to beat up on each other. But I think the schedule itself is easier than it has been relative to previous years.
All right, we got two more. This is one of my my only non over under. Who's going to be the player with the best 3-point percentage for IU this year on a minimum of 50 attempts? So not somebody who just takes, one a game and makes, 20 of them or whatever. Best
so
percentage wise, at least 50 attempts, best 3-point shooter. Let's go to Coach.
Oh man, it's going to be a tight race between Parker Stewart and Miller Kopp, but I think Parker Stewart's the better shooter. So I think he will. He'll be the best 3-point shooter.
Andy?
Nope.
Oh, Jared has strong opinions on this.
Jared's
go ahead.
shade already.
I do.
All right.
I think I know where Jared's going.
I think
it's going to be Anthony Leal. The guy we're just talking about percentage, right?
He's got to shoot. Got to have 50 attempts.
Minimum 50 attempts.
I think he'll get 50 attempts. I mean, we're running offense. That's a little over one a game. He's going to go in with a green light from his coach. He's going to have
a little
one
over
role.
one a game. That's like 1 point.
Yeah,
it's like 1.67 a game, right?
Yeah, and he's going to get some minutes, especially early on in the season. And again, he's a good shooter who struggled a little bit with the speed of the game as a freshman, but we saw him get out there and do it. And I think he's going to get. I think he'll get enough shots, and I think when he gets in there, he's a guy who will shoot high 30s, low 40s at a minimum. I believe in him as a shooter. And I think the fact that he's on a lower volume is why I think his percentage will be able to be up, because he's going to go in for one thing. He's going to be like the Nick Zeisloft, to just go in and make threes. So I don't think he's a better shooter than those other guys. I just think his role is going to be so defined and he's going to be at a lower volume that he's going to do it. And I like shooters between their freshman and sophomore year, like an Armand Franklin. You're used to the speed of the game. You've made that adjustment. So
nope.
I'm taking.
All right, what do you got, Andy? After Jared pulled a Ryan, just to honor him and for not being here and interrupt.
Let me just jump in real quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to see how I can correlate this with other stuff that I picked already. I'll say Scoop. Why not?
Whoa,
that's where I thought Jared was going.
That's what I did too. That's what I did too, Coach.
I was down between.
I don't think he's going to shoot that well from 3-point range. I don't believe in freshmen as shooters.
I was between him and Parker Stewart. So
this is pretty crazy because the chat mob picked Parker Stewart. So we have, I guess Coach went with Stewart. I'm surprised nobody went with Miller Kopp. I mean, that's
look at all these options.
Look
at all these options. Oh, our theoretical offseason shooting is great, isn't it?
It's the best in the country.
All right, guys, we got the last one and probably the most important one. What is Indiana University basketball's NCAA tournament seed? The Bart Torvik projects us at 6.8. I'm saying the over-under is 6.5. Under means that we're a better seed than 6.5. Over means we're a worse seed. And we'll start with Coach, the host. Let's go. What do we got?
I'm going to go over. I think the 7-8 range is where I think they're most likely to land without seeing them play. Obviously, this is one I'm going to root for me to miss on because then that's just good news. But that gives me 7 to 11 to get in the tournament, which is the number one goal right now, is to get in the tournament at any seed. But yeah, that's where I think over.
All right, so Coach is picking less than 1.5 losses in the non-conference and over 11.5 wins in the Big Ten. But IU's not going to be a 6 seed or better. What do you got, Andy?
Yeah, preseason wise, I think I was looking through. I probably preliminarily have him as a 7 based on where I'm at in the process right now. And if you figure, I know Coach talks about this a lot. I mean, a top 6 seed suggests you're the top 24 team in the country. I think IU is going to be kind of on that fringe. And if you look at, they're finishing, get 12 Big Ten wins. A lot of those maybe coming against teams lower in the league. Non-conference schedule isn't great. If we're right about only having 1 loss there, you got a couple decent wins. I feel like that puts you in 6 or 7 territory, and might be a team that struggles a little bit to get road wins, which maybe bumps them down. So I'll say 7. Or I guess I'll take the over in that case, thinking that they'll probably be in the 7 range.
Jay,
I just wanted to
right.
demonstrate that I understood the over-under, since Jared had a little bit of trouble with that earlier on some of the prior questions.
One of the most interesting things that I've learned since doing brackology is if you're a 7 seed, if you're the number 1 7 seed, you're the 25th best team in the tournament. And so if you're ranked 25th at the end of the season and your resume matches that ranking, you're a 7th. I used to think anyone below a 4 was not very good. What I realized is that the top 8 seeds are all top 30 teams. That's pretty good basketball right there, regardless. So, 12 and 10. That's 22 wins. Yeah, it's going to be the 6-7 range if you do reach those.
And if you're a double-digit seed that gets to play Purdue in the first round, you have a really good shot. So, all right, Jared, what do we got?
Well, I mean, my projected record is similar to Andy and Coach's, because I think we'll be 22-9. So I really should just go with them, since they're the seasoned bracketologists and are much better able to predict this. But I'm going to be an idiot, and I'm going to go rogue, and I'm going to say that even at that record, we're going to get a 6 seed. And I think when we look back on it, our 2 consecutive victories in late January on the 20th at home against Purdue and at home against Michigan, because we're going to go back-to-back and beat both those teams. Those are going to be huge for our resume. And so I'm gonna go with 6. I'm just gonna believe in the optimistic side, full well knowing that Coach and Andy are probably right here.
And man, the chat mob is all over the place on this. I'm gonna give it a slight under just from scrolling through. And so that wraps it up. Thanks everybody.
Wow.
And there
nice
you
job,
have
Jay.
it. We'll add Ryan's to the list and make an announcement once he sends those in, and we'll see who had the most picks correct. Actually, I hope a lot of mine are incorrect. That means the team's doing a little bit better, but nonetheless, good.
Yeah, we need some kind of prize for it this year. Let's make sure we follow up on this. Let's do
the championship belt. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay,
absolutely. So, all right, coming up in our third segment, we'll answer your questions that were given to us in the community. We always have some good questions, so stick with us here on the Assembly Call.
and Jay needs a drink.
Good work, Jay.
Guys.
That was not mediocre.
Yes, well done.
That was good.
There was a part of me that wished I had really prepared more than giving them a cursory glance earlier, but then I was like, I would have just talked myself into or out of all of them 5 times between then, so it's probably better just to get the my gut reaction.
Ooh, Kathy throwing a little shade back your way, Jay. I mean, she's got a point.
You know, I'm just along for the ride. I'm just here to.
I mean, he's setting the line, so it becomes a little bit difficult to, I'll stick up for him in that regard.
The casino doesn't also bet. I mean,
That's right.
It just takes everybody else's money.
It's true. All right, let's do a couple shout outs next segment, Coach, and then let's power through these questions quickly.
All righty, let's go then. We're on go. Here we go.
Oh shoot.
Hey, this is Deron Davis. And what's the only thing better than dominating a Duke big man in the post? Is celebrating with friends afterwards. Join Gerard, Andy, Ryan, and Coach on the Assembly Hall call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
All right, welcome. Welcome back. I'm Coach Brian Tonsoni, and I'm with Gerard, Jay, and Andy here, and it's segment 3, which can mean only one thing.
Subscriber shout out, subscriber shout out.
All right, Jared, over to you for some shout outs.
Let's do this. Some subscriber shout outs. This is a reward for folks who recommended our email list to other people who joined up. We're going to give you some shout outs. So let's give a shout out to Michael Smock. Michael is from Guilford, Indiana. His favorite IU player of all time. He's got 3 of them: Scott May, Mike Woodson, and Keith Smart. And boy, if there was an all-time IU basketball 3-on-3 team, that would be a hell of a team to try to handle right there. His favorite or his assembly call leader is all of us. So we're going to assume that he's including Ryan in there, not you, Jay. Although after tonight's performance, maybe it is. Maybe it is. And then for his special acknowledgement, he says, I would like to be able to say we are back with the general. Go Hoosiers. Well, we can kind of say that now because, Bob Knight's kind of back in the fold. The family's back together again. That's one of the reasons why we're all feeling so good and so excited heading into this season. And then let's also give a shout out. I believe he's in the audience tonight because I think I saw him there. It is Jack from Carmel, Indiana. His favorite IU player is also Ryan's favorite IU player, Steve Alford. His assembly call leader, he actually has this written here, ladies and gentlemen, not making this up. This is perfect timing, even though it was accidental. He said Gerard Morris, as Deron Davis would say.
Gerard.
So there we go. That is a good deep cut there, Jack. We always appreciate that. And then for his special acknowledgement, he says, I would like to take a moment to remember Bobby Slick Leonard. He means so much to the state of Indiana. We will miss him. I want to acknowledge all the former and current IU players and Bob Knight / Branch McCracken. Mike Woodson is going to lead us back to the promised land with the help of Dane Fife and others. Love the show, guys. That's a fantastic special acknowledgement. Fully endorse all of that. Jack, thank you for being such an awesome, loyal audience member. And thank you as well, Michael. So special acknowledgments. We appreciate you guys. Back over to you, Coach.
All right. It's time now for the rest of our mailbag questions. All questions were submitted via our private IU basketball discussion community, which you can learn more about and join at assemblycall.com/community. And we have some good questions as usual. Jeff asked this question: should we be concerned that the secret scrimmage with Cincinnati was canceled last week because of minor injuries and illnesses? Andy, we'll go to you on your take on the cancellation of the scrimmage.
I mean, it's not great, but I don't know that I'm worried. But obviously you don't want to be dealing with those things now. But I also think it's a measure of trying to take care of them now so they don't linger into the season. So not overly concerned, but certainly would rather the opposite be the case, and be interesting to see whether they're able to play the other one against Belmont whenever that one is supposed to be, and whether they've gotten to a point where that's not as much of a concern, because I think those are there is value to be gained from being able to have those kinds of opportunities. So hopefully they can get the second one in, but not overly concerned.
Jay,
I have no idea if you said Jay or Jared, but I'll take them.
I said Jay.
I mean, at a certain point, it has to be a little bit concerning. I mean, they canceled the Hoosier Hysteria scrimmage at what it seems like the last minute. They canceled the first scrimmage against Cincinnati. It seems like maybe a day or two before. So obviously, yeah, at a certain point, it becomes concerning. And who knows what it is? It could be a million things. So I don't, nobody wants to speculate about, what it might be. From everything I've heard, it all seems like small nagging injuries, and they don't want to push it, which makes sense. I mean, we get to work our way into the season. We have a number of games to do that. But when games start, if guys are in boots, I think that's the time to get really concerned.
Jared.
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned. Again, you don't want to overreact, but this is valuable time for guys learning new players, 6 new players in a new system. So yeah, it's concerning because no matter where this team is on opening night, they're not as far along as they could be. So that's a concern. Hopefully they get the other one in, but it's just, it's smart if you're preventing further injury and getting everybody healthy to the starting line. That's all well and good. It's just concerning that we're not going to be as far along as we could be.
Yeah, individually and team, Jared. I agree with you. The individual development is a setback if you can't go as a single individual, and then also that team continuity. The minor clips that they showed did show some players back playing again that were out at Hoosier Hysteria, so that was good to see. I think Galloway and Lander I recognized in a quick thing I saw there.
By the way, how about that pass by Logan Duncombe off the dribble, one hand?
I'm telling you that
Trey Galloway. It's going to be the new Jeremiah April turnaround jumper for me.
Well, and I think that goes right to our next question too. In the Big Ten, you need 15 fouls from your the 5 position, especially this year. I don't think think there's been much talk about Duncan filling that role that Joey Brunk couldn't fill last year due to injury. And Archie Miller on a podcast said that was a big part of issue not having Joey Brunk. Michael Durr has been injured, and we don't know how much he's been able to practice at all since he's been on campus. The question then becomes, can Logan Duncombe get those minutes off for Trace Jackson Davis at a high enough level? Durr at least played 2 or 3 years, had some college experience, was 7 foot, showed a little bit of offensive game, but more defensive game. Really looking forward to him playing to give Reese and TJD some rest. So, Jared, your thoughts on Durr and Duncombe maybe being able to fill that role, and what happens if Durr is not available?
Yes, I think they're the swing between 2 and 3 victories in Big Ten play, just like Joey Brunk was last year. For all of Joey Brunk's issues that, we knew and how imperfect of a player he was, he is one of those guys you can sit back and you can remember the specific games he turned around for Indiana. The Connecticut game. I think it was the Minnesota game at home. The Connecticut game, I think, was his first year. Then the Minnesota game at home. There's just games where his energy and being able to come in for a guy, a big guy that had fouls, you're going to need that in the Big Ten. So, yeah, and I think it's got to be Durr because this is going to be just a treacherous Big Ten for a freshman to come in and try and do anything. I want the guy that's got some experience. And so, let's not forget how often we came on the postgame show last year. It's like, man, we really could have used Joey Brunk for 8 to 12 minutes. Like that honestly might have swung this game. And I think it's going to be no different. So I hope Durr's healthy. He's not one of those guys that's going to get a whole lot of headlines, but in the Big Ten, you've got to have that guy. So it's really important.
Jay and Andy, I'll add to that. Do you think that both of them are going to be needed, or is one going to step up and be the main backup at the 5 spot? Jay?
I think Durr is probably the most important when it comes to that. I mean, I think IU when they have the opportunity will slide Trace to the 5 and obviously go smaller if they can. I mean, Trace is going to start at the 5, but we'll play Trace to the 5, and then maybe you can put in Miller at the 4, or Parker at the 4, or a number of the guys who have some size in the wing that can spread the floor. I wouldn't be shocked to see how you do that a decent amount if they have the opportunity matchup wise. But Durr is just a big body. He can match up against anybody in the conference size wise, and so I think he's incredibly important to the success of the team, especially in those matchups against Illinois, against Purdue, against the guys against Michigan, against the guys where you want to be able to keep Trace away from having to guard Kofi or Eddie or Dickinson, guys like that.
And he can face up and make some shots too. Like he's got a little offensive game.
Andy?
Yeah, I think I don't know that you see a situation where you use all of them, because I think you factor into some of those 15 fouls of Race being able to play some of those guys at times as well. And I think if one of them steps up, Durr seems like the logical choice. You set aside the injury stuff, although they both were banged up for the trip to the Bahamas. But I think one, just college experience, 2, just the overall size and strength that he comes in with, and I think he's going to be, as Jared said, more of an offensive threat to at least give the other team something to think about. So I think of the 2, I think that's why you bring him in on, given the transfer market and things like that. It's probably because you didn't want to have to throw Duncombe into that situation right out of the gate.
If Durr is injured, I do have a lot of faith in Duncombe as a player. Yes, he's a freshman. I would prefer Durr to be ready because of all of the things that you guys have said, and I think you're absolutely right. But I'm really sold on this kid being here at Indiana and being a really solid player. And if maybe we just need 5 to 8 minutes, he's going to hustle. He's going to play hard, and he'll give you a lot. It might be a little bit of drop off because of the college experience and just the flat size that Durr has, and the strength. But I'm really sold on Duncombe, more so probably in the next few years than this year. But I wouldn't have any pause seeing him on the floor. I think he's got a motor. So. Next question. Robot says, which of the top Big Ten teams, however you want to define it, could lose their primary offensive weapon? Dickinson at Michigan, Coburn at Illinois, Williams or Ivy at Purdue, and still remain competitive this season. So which of the top teams could have a major injury and still stay competitive? And he said he's not wishing that on anyone. Jay, we'll go to you first. Which of the top 4 teams do you think would be able to withstand a loss to their major player?
Man, that's tough. Man, I'll go, as much as I hate to say it, I'll go Purdue, just because I think they have a system that I think tends to work well in the Big Ten. They're incredibly physical. They dare the refs to call fouls. The refs usually don't call fouls. And they can get away with just playing super physical on both sides of the ball, really. And so if they lost Jaden Ivey, I think they could just go big and just pound it inside and still beat a lot of teams and be successful.
And if they lose one of the bigs, they've got another one.
Right.
So, yeah, I think this one's easy. I think it's Purdue. I mean, Illinois, if they lose Coburn, they're toast. I don't think they're going to be all that great anyway. And Michigan, if you lose Dickinson, boy, you're relying on a whole lot of unproven guys. Yep. Like Purdue's got a lot of guys that have proven it in the Big Ten. So I think it's them.
Andy?
Yeah, I would say Purdue as well. I think Dickinson, in addition, he's just so key to what they want to do defensively at Michigan. Then to Jared's point, you got transfers and freshmen that you're really relying on pretty heavily there. But I think the defensive element of him is as important as any. I just think the depth there and the ability to replace or kind of cover over what you'd have there with some of those guys is a little bit different. If you throw Ohio State in that mix, I think losing Liddell would have a huge impact on them as well. So I think Purdue, just from a kind of top end talent standpoint, has other guys that could step in and a little bit of duplication, at least in some ways, of guys where they could make it work.
And look at Ohio State struggled with the Young injury too, and he might not have been their best player. So I think it's going to be difficult for anyone, but I do think Purdue is poised probably to be in the best position there. Valerie says, don't we have another close scrimmage scheduled? Yes, it's against Belmont. We don't know the exact date, or does anyone have the date? But I know it's scheduled. And then she follows up by saying, wow, I was really blown away by Archie Miller's complimentary comments on Indiana's offseason moves. Very classy. Anyone want to comment on that? If you listen to that podcast, the Field of 68 podcast, and Archie's Jared, his comments.
I didn't listen to it, but I read what other people said about it, and I think he was obviously spot on. And no one is as qualified as he is to speak on that. And so I think it was really interesting to see him basically say, yeah, they went out and fixed a roster that hadn't been managed very well, essentially. I think what it does, because it's the first time that he's talked about it. And, it's always tough when, you kind of part ways with a coach and, he's booed off the court at Rutgers and there's just bad feelings. I kind of feel like that just immediately closed the wound, honestly, whatever wound there was. Because I don't think anybody had a lot of acrimony to Archie. It's just everybody realized this isn't working. You're being yourself. We're Indiana basketball, what we are and what we expect. And this is just not going to work. And until there's kind of comments or it's addressed, it just kind of floats out there as this thing. And I honestly think like that, everybody's just like, wow, that was classy. That was really nice of Archie. Now he can walk right back into Assembly Hall and I think he would get a nice big ovation. No hard feelings. I think that's what that did. And so I think it's great that happened. And, to whatever extent, that was lingering, everybody can just move on now. And that's a good thing.
Jay or Andy?
I listened to it. I thought the roster stuff was the most interesting to me. He's not going to get on there and just eviscerate the program and the guys that he had brought in. So there, in some regard, I don't know what else he would say, but I did think, just commenting on IU having done, and he used a lot of hyperbole, I would say, in a lot of cases where this or that was, one of the better at the country and doing things. But I do think talking through, how good a job IU had done and really bringing in talent was interesting for sure, and certainly had complimentary things to say about Trace and about being able to have fans back and what an impact that was. So I thought there was definitely some insightful stuff to be had in it for sure. I listened to it a little bit after you, Coach, had said it was good, because I was a little bit on the fence about like whether I really wanted to bother, quite frankly, and listen to it, and was glad I did.
Jay, did you have a chance to listen or any thoughts?
No, I think that's how a professional person should handle it versus having Bob Kravitz and Pete Thamel come stay at your house and then throwing the athletic department under the bus. I think that was I think Archie handled it slightly better than the previous IU basketball coach did. So
That is how you're a champion.
Yeah, I tell you, Archie knows basketball. He just wasn't able to execute it, obviously, at Indiana, and that a lot of that was not basketball knowledge, more personality maybe on how he dealt with his guys and the program in general. But listen to him talk about the Big Ten. I thought was, again, I really like to listen to those guys talk, even though a lot of it is speak. Elbows in with the final question of the night, and it's a good one. Imagine this year's team goes on to win the Big Ten Tourney Championship game and then goes to the Final Four. Which teams would you want IU to beat in that Big Ten Championship game? And the following 4 NCAA games it takes to get to the Final Four, what is your dream quote? IU is here. Revenge tour look like? We'll take away the first game. That's going to be about a 14 seed. If Indiana wins the Big Ten and goes on there, probably a 3 seed, 4 seed, something like that. They're playing 13, 14. We'll just beat up on them. So you got the Big Ten championship game, who you want to beat, and then 3 teams in the second round and the Sweet 16, the Elite 8 to get to that Final Four. Jay, we'll start with you. Let's go Big Ten first, around the horn. Big Ten. Who do you want to beat in the Big Ten championship? Jay first.
I mean, I know the obvious answer is Purdue, but give me Ohio State. I want to beat Chris Holtman. I mean,
I want to beat Purdue. Screw them. I want them to lose the first game of the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, that's fine. Give me Chris Holtman.
Okay. I want to beat Michigan because I think they're going to be the highest rated, and that'll help our seed the most. Plus, Juwan Howard versus Mike Woodson. That's kind of a cool national story. So that'd be a huge game.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, outside of Purdue, I think Michigan would be one. I mean, there's so many teams that IU has just gotten routinely pummeled by in recent years that there's probably a lot of pent up anger against a number of different teams. But yeah, I would say, I mean, Michigan's one that's just embarrassed IU at times over the last couple seasons.
Yeah, I'll go with Michigan. I'll go with Michigan, but my dream is like Fran McCaffrey is 500 and he wins 2 or 3 games to go to the championship, and he needs to beat IU to go to the NCAA tournament, and we beat him 100-60. Now that would be a dream.
He can't even stop our sub-40 offense.
Absolutely, and then he has no chance to go in the NCAA tournament.
All right, so
if you're going to play Fran that many times, we're not going to be a sub-40 offense.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Fair.
What happened between the Big Ten?
What happened? Yeah, what happened between the two of you, Coach?
Well,
AC After Dark scenario.
We don't. Yeah, I'll tell you after dark. I have a certain list, and there's 3 coaches on a certain list. I'll share that after dark.
Let's go.
All right, and then
look. Here's what I'll say about the NCAA tournament, because I think if we beat Michigan and we win the Big Ten tournament, right, that's going to raise our seed. So I think what'll happen at that point is we'll get like a 4 seed. And look, we all know we're going to be happy to be back in the tournament. So as far as we go in the tournament, that's fine. But what I want is that Sweet 16 matchup, number 4 seeded Indiana against number 1 seeded Duke, and we kick their ass in Coach K's last game. And that's the last thing that happens to him on a college basketball court is we send him home, and whatever happens from there, you know, let's keep going. There's unfinished business after that, but that would be the one opponent that I want. If we could give Coach K his last loss, that'd be a beautiful thing. It would kind of
beat number 2 seed Kansas.
In
Bob Knight 8.
The guy who brings Bob Knight back into the fold at Indiana then beats Coach K to send him out. It would be a very poetic end to this season.
Any other thoughts about
you guys are missing a key step here, and that's when IU as a 4 seed plays the winner of the last play-in game, which just happens to be the team that finished last place in the SEC that won the SEC tournament, which is Georgia. And then as a big effort to save Tom Crean's job, they win the SEC tournament and then play IU
get the
in the
13
first round
seed.
of the NCAA tournament.
They're seeded 13th against
Bulldogs.
IU 4. Yeah, that would be great. Any big teams that we
actually
like
don't think that can happen though, because in that scenario, like the last
Sorry, it's
four
not
is
a
the
playing
last
game. They're not. It's not a playing game. Andy, geez, we don't have to get all black bracketologists in here.
Sorry.
They're just in the tournament as a 13 seed.
I will say,
okay, they can't play in a playing game. I get it.
Every projection
You will
I've
not
seen-
compromise the integrity of the bracket, even in this hypothetical exercise, Jay.
I will say every projection I've seen of anything for the SEC has Georgia dead last.
I'd like to beat UCLA.
Oh, really?
Give me Texas. Give me Texas. Give me Coach Beard. I want to because everybody said that IU was an idiot for going after Beard. Give me Chris Beard. I want to beat them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who else I want to beat. I want to beat Gonzaga and their chicken shit suspension of Mark Few. To hell with that. One game for a DUI, please. So I'd like to beat them too.
It's 3.
No, it's not 3 because it's 2 exhibition games. That's bogus.
Well, they only had 1 exhibition, Jared, and they had to schedule a second one after he got arrested to get to the 3 so he could be on the court against Texas.
It's ridiculous. I want to be a fly on the wall if a Gonzaga player tests positive for marijuana and gets a 3-game suspension and has to go in and Mark Few gets to deliver the news. Be like, oh, really, coach? I'm out for 3 games, huh? And you sat for 1? That's ridiculous. It's a terrible decision by Gonzaga. If I was Mark Few, I'd be embarrassed. I'd want more of a suspension.
Elbows in has brought out a lot of action here with this question. We'll go to Andy. We're
gonna get at. We have to go after dark to finish all.
What's your dream? IU is here, Andy.
Boy, I'm not sure. It's so much pent up rage from Jared. I don't know. I don't really have any. I saw somebody put Houston in the chat with Sampson.
That'd be good.
That would be an interesting. Tyler, I'll give credit to who did that. I don't know. I honestly. I haven't. I didn't think too much about it, but I think you guys hit some good ones. The Duke one is interesting. I mean, Coach K, if he was handing out the punishment, Jared would have just given Few the indefinite suspension that would have lasted even less than the 3 games, than what he got. So
that first quarter suspension, yeah.
That's it. We're done. No more questions.
Well, we both just did a Ryan drop at the exact same time.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. We hear Ryan twice.
Right, shut it down.
If you want to see us do the live show, join us at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights for the live broadcast of our Assembly Call radio recording.
Media.
Special thanks to Bob Thompson for producing a lot of the music, including Andy's new song that we hear on the show. And thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again next week. Or sooner if any news breaks. Until then,
a walking skeleton with a hairpiece.
One more, you keep your elbows in, eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
You might get beat today, but each day you got to get better.
And that was an ill-timed
of
ending.
College basketball teams.
I just have a whole page of drops with Ryan talking about Duke and Coach K.
So, Jared, I was trying to keep the.
All right, I do have to. I got to run, so I'll have to listen back to this while Coach gives the real behind the scenes story of what happened with him and him and Freddie.
Andy, have a good night, bud.
All right,
see you,
appreciate
Andy.
it, guys. Thanks, Jay.
See you, Andy.
The song. We got to play the song.
Oh my gosh!
You want me to play it? I've got it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When the show is over, but there's more to be said. Pour yourself a drink now. Put the kiddies to bed. It's time to cut loose. No more censored remarks. So cozy up, chat mob. It's time for AC After Dark.
I have a little butthole in you. San Diego chicken shit. Here I come, Coach Mike. I think I kissed a lot of girls. I think I might even kiss a lot of guys. I don't know. These are all rumors. I don't know what's true and what's not. Turn your butt cheeks on. Assembly Call co-host,
Oh, that's too much.
I don't know, man. I don't know how Bob Thompson's going to top that. The Andy song is great, but it's not better than that.
That's good right there. No, I was trying to keep not say my shit list of coaches, and then you went off on on Coach Few. But anyway, I have a new shit list of the bottom 3 coaches after media days, and they didn't do anything to me. They didn't take my, lunch or anything like that. But
they beat him up in the parking lot. We get it, yeah.
Fran's number 14 because I just can't respect the team that doesn't play defense. Mark Turgeon, he's down there. I don't know. So those are my 2 that I really, really can't stand. And now for some reason I can't think of the third one. Who's my third one?
Who's the third one?
I think I sent it to you. Must not have been too bad because I don't have them on the tip of my tongue. But Fran and
It's not
Turgeon,
Underwood because you like Underwood.
No, right? I like Underwood a lot.
You like Painter. You like Izzo. You like Juwan.
Yep.
You love Juwan.
Yep. Juwan really was fantastic.
I don't even know who's the Nebraska coach now.
Collins is great.
Okay.
Hoiberg was fine.
Yeah.
Oh, Guard. Greg Guard. That's who it is.
Oh, Greg Guard.
Oh, yeah, Guard. Yeah.
My goodness. That dude, man. I tell you what,
okay, is this a coaching thing? Like you don't like with Fran, you said it was defense, or is
all right?
Like
so yeah. First of all, I don't like to badmouth any coach, but there are coaches that are bad, and there are coaches that I don't like, right? But I'm going to do it because I think there's some people that I don't like. Greg Guard, part of your job is to develop that good teamwork and an atmosphere in the locker room. And he's had players leave the last 2 years, and then he says he's going to try to fix it. And that's just a personality thing. And I just don't think he's going to be able to get that done and get players up there. So I just don't know how he can win that team back or that program back. And his style of play is just so unique that he needs certain guys in there. So that's a basketball thing. Fran was asked a question about defense, spent 10 seconds on the answer, and then went back to offense. And so I don't think it just shows that he's more offensive minded. That just drives me nuts. When you had talent like Iowa to score and you just don't guard. And then there's just something about Turgeon that it's just like he's like always having to prove something. I'm sure he's confident in his own way, but he went after Juwan Howard on the sidelines, and I don't remember what that was all about, but I thought that was
forgot about that.
I forgot about that too.
Something interesting, but the sad thing is, as a fan, and you go as a media member and as a basketball coach, and you hear these guys talk, you like them. Like there's a lot to like, and then I came away with, man, this league has really got some excellent coaches, and those 3 guys that I mentioned can coach too. They know basketball. It's just a personal preference of what I don't like. But man, Juwan Howard's impressive. And Jared, I don't know if we had a chance to talk about what I like is that he loves Michigan as much as I think Woodson loves Indiana. And Woodson has more experience coaching than Juwan, and they both surrounded themselves with great staffs. So that's when I left media day starting to kick it in a little bit. But I can see why people want to go play for Howard. I mean, the dude's he's just infectious talking to him and the way he laughs and the way he talks, but everything's Michigan, just like Coach Woodson does. And it's, those are guys that you just want to run through the walls for. Juwan's a little more talkative. Woodson's a little more laid back. Painter's the best. I hate to say that, and Jen will get mad at me in the chat mob, but Painters just gives the best answers and the best information. But so yeah, that's my new shit list.
It sucks, but he does.
So yeah, Fran just.
I'm ready. I am so ready to beat them. I am so sick of that stupid ass losing streak. We have got to beat them this year.
We've got to.
That just has to happen.
The thing about Turgeon is that even the Maryland fans don't like him. The Maryland fans have been trying to get rid of him. They try to ship him off to Oklahoma, and he just used that to get a better deal in Maryland. And they were not happy about it. Like even Maryland fans just can't stand him.
The guy I feel for is Collins. I think he really knows what he's doing, but it's just hard. He can't turn Northwestern into Duke, private. He just can't.
It's so funny when IU hired Archie. Osterman, his favorite coach that he wanted IU to hire was Collins.
Yeah,
and
he was on the list.
He was up there, and And yeah, it was it went downhill really quickly for him. I mean, it sucks. I mean, he probably should have jumped as soon as he could, just because you're not going to be able to sustain that at Northwestern. He probably should have gotten out of there as quickly as possible, and he didn't. And now he's probably going to get fired in a year or two. And
they have a chance to be decent this year, and if they do, he should leave. I mean, they could be okay. You know, like they're one of those teams that, like, I think they could be as good as Wisconsin or Iowa. You know, like, I don't know if they're going to make the tournament, but I think they could be better than those teams. They've got some experience
now, but then it's just Northwestern, and then you realize, oh, it's Northwestern. I mean, they have no home court advantage. Like, I mean, it's not like Wisconsin where they're just gonna, regardless of how good they are, they're gonna get every call at the Colt Center. And if you go to Northwestern, it's like, oh, this is mostly away fans because it's Chicago and all the away fans live here.
Hey, Trice is gone, right? Dimitri Trice, is he gone?
Yeah,
I assume he's just a Big Ten official now.
Joel asked which coach cussed the most. It was Woodson at the interviews, and it wasn't bad, but I told Trace all the shit he couldn't do. Man. That was hilarious.
Well, yeah, he said that before. He's been in the pro ranks for however long. Guess what? Grown-ups cuss. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's just what happens. Yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff. Jay, thanks for doing the over-unders. Coach, thanks for holding down the fort.
Yep. Always. No problem whatsoever.
Chat Mob, thanks for being here. We have some more fun announcements. Okay, so I guess I can announce this. We are doing, just like we're doing the show with Tamar Bates, we're doing a show with Grace Berger also.
You mean my cousin Grace Berger?
Is she your cousin?
Yeah.
Like first cousin?
No. So her grandma and my grandma are sisters. Well, they're both dead, but they were sisters.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So, yeah, I was around. I'm sure Grace doesn't remember me because I'm significantly older than her, you know, but I remember when Grace was born and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Wow. I did not know that. So, yeah. So we're going to call it the Jay's Cousin Show now that we know this information. No, the Grace Berger Show. It's going to be, you know, kind of like the Tamar Show. We're going to do 12 episodes. We'll do a couple each month. Want to go out on the podcast feed, and then we're going to do kind of a regular AMA inside the community. Or we'll probably put like part of it out on the public podcast feed, and the rest of it will just be for community members. But I'm really excited about it. Coach Marlowe is doing the interviews. They did the first interview last night. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. It's kind of one of those things. I was trying to think, you know, of our community, who would be the best person to talk hoops with Grace Berger. And, you know, someone who's really followed the women's team a lot, who understands the women's game and the differences and the nuances between the women's game and the men's game. And to me, Coach Marlowe was the obvious choice, and he was excited about it. So, you know, they did the first interview, so we'll get that out probably Monday or Tuesday. I got to work on it this weekend. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I mean, to be able to get insight all throughout the season from Grace Berger on the number 8 team in the country, and, you know, Tamar Bates, who hopefully is on, you know, a team that's a top 25-ish team all year long. It's just such a unique experience to be able to do it now. Like, we've been asking for it and talking about it, like, give us access to the players. So I think to me and to us, it just kind of felt like, well, we've got the opportunity now. So let's try and do it and try and find a unique way to do it. So I'm excited about it. Coach Marlowe is going to do a great job, and we hope you guys all enjoy that content.
Good stuff. And Jared, just a great job again on the inside scoop. I just
thank you.
That was just great.
That episode was fun.
Hey, Jared, can we get a teaser on what's coming next in the future Inside Scoop episodes?
I think so. We're definitely going to do one with his dad. I got to figure out when we're going to do that episode. I think what we were talking about is trying to do an AMA before the season starts. So basically give all the folks in the community a chance to ask him questions. So we just got to see if we can get the scheduling down for that. But yeah, we'll do that. You know, we're going to get more of his family members on throughout the season. I think once we get into the season, you know, one thing that I want to do at least a couple of times is, you know, take some clips of specific plays and get him to kind of break them down, you know, and what was he thinking here? Good plays and bad plays. Definitely, if there are any choice opinions after a bad performance by Tamar on our show, I'm going to pull that clip and play it for him and let him respond, because I think that'll be fun, especially if it's Ryan. Really only if it's Ryan. It wouldn't be funny if it's anybody else. You know, so we'll just try and do kind of fun stuff like that. and and any other ideas that he has. But I think I think he'd be really good at kind of breaking down some plays and kind of talking through the basketball part of it. I think that would be really interesting insight to get. And
he was so good at talking about that on his championship game and some of those things that he and his brother did, and he remembered some things. It was just fantastic, and it's so infectious. I said that earlier in the first segment when we talked about it. It's just you just watch, you just want to root for the kid to do well, and it was just he and his brother back and forth. And then when they said they finally dropped his dad, that was hilarious.
I mean, here's the interesting thing is, he's a freshman, and I don't think you would normally think, hey, we're going to do a 20 episode show. Who would be the ideal person? You wouldn't think it would be a freshman, right? But like, think back to the last 3, 4, 5 years of Indiana basketball. Are there any no-brainer choices to carry a 20 episode show through a season? And this isn't like to say anything bad. Maybe part of it is just that we haven't gotten to know these guys well enough, but none of them, there's no one where it seems like, oh yeah, like I can see that guy, carrying a show like this. And all we had with Tamar really is the one Hoosier Hysterics episode and a couple other appearances. And I think everybody's like, oh yeah, this guy could do it. This is going to be great. And so I think that it speaks some to a different kind of personality, a different kind of enthusiasm, just a different kind of outgoingness almost that this program just hasn't had, and now with Miller Kopp was the other guy that I thought would have been really good too. And there's something to that, like even just on the court, guys that have personalities. It's just, I think it's going to make the team more fun to watch and follow, but I think just better and more connected.
And you could tell from I think IMG did like a video series and highlighted Tamar and that sort of stuff about when he arrived at IMG and his kind of growth through his time there, and which I think speaks a lot to kids that come out of that prep school life. And I'm sure not everybody is as mature and as advanced as Tamar is, but just how highly they spoke of him when he was only there for a year, and they were like, yeah, he immediately became a team leader. He was a team captain. He was the guy that everybody else rallied around when he was just there for 1 year, when a lot of those guys are there for 4 years,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I've asked him, I'm not sure if we talked about it off air or when we were recording, just about the transition. It's like, it really hasn't been that big of a transition for him because he's already used to living on his own. And I don't know if you'll necessarily get that with all guys who go to prep schools. I mean, I think he seems, just based on his upbringing and personality, kind of uniquely, mature in a sense. But I think the more that we can get kids that have had that background, that's why I think he's going to be ready to come in and play. He's just not going to be blown away by the competition, by the situation, by, trying to balance schoolwork and all that. He's got that experience. So, yeah. And that's, I know I've hit on it a bunch, but being able to get kids from prep schools in Florida and Oak Hill and, the other big, 10 prep schools around the country, you get kids that have been in the college light environment versus kids coming from normal high schools. I think it's a big advantage, especially in the transfer era when you have freshmen that are competing with juniors for spots. I mean, getting a kid who's been in a college environment for a year already, he's way ahead of the curve. Yeah. By the way, just incredibly generous here, Kathy. I'm super excited because I have reservations at Little Zagreb's tomorrow. Come everybody. We're picking up the tab. Wow. Oh, Kathy, that's awesome. That is amazing.
Oh, Kathy,
go to Zagreb's
right now.
Just incredible
Kathy,
generosity.
that's so nice.
I might fly in for that.
And then she's got the bottle service at sports, I think I heard. So that's
Yep.
Oh my. Okay.
And she's got 3 or 4 extra hotel rooms we could all crash before we go to tailgate at noon.
I think the last time I was at sports, Armand Bassett was there. That was like 3 years after he had left.
Oh wow, there's an
that was an interesting night. Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right, everybody.
All right, well, let's go beat those Buckeyes on Saturday, huh? Get this season turned around.
Okay, let's try hard and still be friends.
I mean, it's about all we'll have after that game. Let's hope.
All right, everyone, be safe. We'll
All right,
see you
y'all.
Saturday if you want to stop by a tailgate. Last one for me. I think the guys are going to try to keep it going. Joel and Rich are going to try to keep it going, but high school basketball will prevent me from being down the last couple games. But if you're around lot 11, stop by. We got chili, brisket, hot dogs, and beverages. So come have some fun. And everyone be safe. It's getting closer, everyone. A couple weeks.
That's right.
See you, everybody.
Peace.
See y'all.